My uncle, Arthur, was what you'd call an eccentric. He lived alone in a sprawling, slightly dilapidated house on the outskirts of town, a place that held more secrets than it did furniture. When he passed away, my family was surprised to learn he'd left the house to me and my wife, Sarah. We were a young couple, drowning in rent, so inheriting a whole house felt like winning the lottery. We just had no idea what we were really signing up for. The house was a project. Dust mites danced in sunbeams like tiny ghosts, and every floorboard groaned with a story, but it was ours. We spent the first week just cleaning, dreaming of paint colors and new furniture. It was exciting, exhausting, and completely normal. Until the third night. I jolted awake. The bedside clock glowed. 2 a.m. A faint, muffled sound was coming from downstairs. I nudged Sarah. "Did you hear that?" She mumbled something about the old house settling and rolled over. I listened again. It was a voice, a low, raspy murmur, coming from the direction of the basement. I told myself it was the pipes, the wind, anything but what it sounded like. I forced myself back to sleep, but an icy feeling lingered. The next night, it happened again. 2 a.m. on the dot. This time, the voice was clearer. "Hello. Is anyone there?" It was unmistakably my Uncle Arthur's voice. My blood ran cold. I shook Sarah awake, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Listen." We both sat there, frozen in the silent darkness, and then it came again. "Hello? A little help?" Sarah's eyes went wide. It wasn't just in my head. "We didn't go down there." "How could we?" We huddled together until sunrise, trying to rationalize it. A recording? A prank? But who would do that? And how? The basement was locked from the inside when we first arrived, and we had the only key. Every night, for a week, the same thing happened. 2 a.m. Uncle Arthur's voice, calling from the basement. Sometimes it was just a hello. Other times it sounded like he was trying to fix something, muttering to himself. We were living on a diet of coffee and fear. We stopped sleeping in our bedroom and moved into the living room, closer to the front door, just in case. One afternoon, mustering every ounce of courage we had, we decided we had to face it. We couldn't live like this. We stood before the heavy wooden door to the basement, key trembling in my hand. I turned the lock, the click echoing in the silent hallway. I pushed the door open, revealing a set of steep, dusty wooden stairs descending into blackness. The air that wafted up was musty and cold. "Uncle Arthur," I called out, my voice cracking. Silence. We flicked on the single, bare bulb that hung from a wire, casting long, eerie shadows across the stone walls. The basement was just a basement. Old furniture under white sheets, stacks of newspapers, forgotten jars on shelves. There was no one there. Nothing out of the ordinary, except for a peculiar old ham radio sitting on a workbench in the far corner. It was an ancient-looking thing, covered in knobs and dials. We were about to leave, relieved and more confused than ever, when Sarah noticed something. A small, modern-looking digital timer was plugged into the same power strip as the radio, and next to it, a cassette player. My stomach dropped. I walked over and pressed the play button on the tape deck. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Uncle Arthur's voice filled the basement. It wasn't a ghost. It was a recording. We traced the wires. The timer was set to turn on the cassette player every morning at 2 a.m. The player was connected to a small speaker hidden behind a stack of old boxers, making the sound echo perfectly up the stairwell. We both just stood there, staring at this ridiculous setup. Then, we started to laugh. It was a wild, hysterical laughter born from a week of sleepless terror. Why would he do this? We found our answer in a letter tucked under the radio. It was addressed to the new owners of my home. In it, Uncle Arthur explained, he wrote about how much he loved the old house but knew it had a reputation for being creaky. He'd spent years tinkering with his gadgets and had a quirky sense of humor. This was his final, elaborate joke. He figured if the new owners were brave enough to investigate the haunting, they were worthy of the house. He ended the letter by saying, "Consider it the house's final personality quirk. Don't be mad. Just promise to look after the old place, and for goodness sake, reset that timer before it drives you crazy." We did reset the timer. That night, for the first time in a week, we slept soundly in our own bed. The house was finally quiet at 2 a.m. But you know what? Sometimes, when I'm working late, I'll walk past the basement door and smile. The house isn't haunted, but it is filled with the spirit of my strange, wonderful uncle, and in a way, it feels like he's still here, reminding us not to take life, or spooky old houses, too seriously. Thanks so much for watching our story. It's a bit of a weird one, I know. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you in the next one.